Hey guys, my name is Katarina Berry. I'm an empath. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here and if you identify as an empath or you're just very sensitive, you have some psychic abilities, you're like, I don't know how these work, but I have them. You're intuitive, you get these hunches and you're just like interested in exploring that side of things, then this channel is a really good fit for you. So consider subscribing, hit that bell button because I don't have a schedule, but I upload pretty frequently as of recently, and you don't want to miss a new video. And if you actually don't want to miss a new video, definitely consider that bell button because that's the only way that you'll know when I upload. So in this video, we're going to be talking about examples of channeling in literature. And these are going to be two very specific examples. And I'm going to read you a chapter out of the two books that I'm going to be referencing that are going to be talking about channeling. But the thing is, they're not going to call it channeling. And you might find a lot more examples of it in literature. And I encourage you to drop a comment, let me know if you have already or if you will in the future. And especially if it's not called channeling, but you're like, yeah, that's definitely channeling, then let me know because I'm curious. If you don't have no idea what channeling is, what it means, or you're like kind of like have a vague idea, I have a video that I recently made today wearing the same thing that you can check out. It talks about what channeling is, who are the channelers, and what it all means. And then if you want to try channeling, you're like, okay, that sounds cool, but I actually want to try it out. Then have another video that's also going to be somewhere above my head that tells you of two tactics that you can easily use on your own at home. No fancy, nothing needed. You don't have to be certified psychic or like anything like that. You don't have to have any prior experience. You can just give it a shot. So with that being said, the two examples I'm going to be using are first Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. The second is a very modern book. It's called Copywriting Secrets by Jim Edwards. It's part of the ClickFunnels, marketing funnels, like business related books. So, but I just thought it was such an interesting area where this method was apparently useful. And I thought, since I was reading it and I have a small business and I do marketing, I was like, well, this is interesting. I was like, well, wow, that's channeling. And I thought I'd use that too. So I'm going to be reading the two chapters. And the way I'm going to do that is not on video. I'm going to actually voice record myself and put some nice backgrounds for you to look at that connect with the messages that are presented in both of these books and both of these chapters. Now, before we get into that, another two recommendations I have for you as pertains to channeling. If you want to get like a taste of like the actual channeling, not what it is, not like how to do it, as these two books are going to talk about, but like what is the good example of channeled message that is a book, for example, right? One I would recommend, number one, is Ask and It Is Given. It is by Jerry and Esther Hicks, otherwise referred to as Abraham Hicks. Abraham is the collective group of beings that are not in the physical form that they channel. So the Abraham part is the actual channeled information. So it's amazing. It's a great book. It's not like eerie, weird, esoteric, blah, blah. I don't get it, like too weird. It's not. It's really actually great. It has had such a positive impact on my life. It has helped me in so many ways. It's just such a great book. And I have a physical copy, but I actually prefer audiobooks as of late. So I've actually listened to it several times on Audible. So if you want to check it out, check it out. And another example of an actual channeled book is another book by Napoleon Hill. It's called Outwitting the Devil. That book has been prohibited from publication until like 2011. Now, mind me, he lived in early 1900s, so it's been like almost 100 years that it couldn't be published, or like I think it was like 70 years that it couldn't be published for. It's crazy, but it's a mind-blowing book, and it's just amazing. I can't really tell you what it is. You really have to kind of read it, but it's fascinating, and it's also opened my eyes to so many things, and it's such a powerful and unique and incredible example of channeling. In that book, Napoleon Hill and his wife form a mastermind. So they channel the devil, and the devil can't harm them, and he can't not answer the questions. I don't know how they managed to do it. Now, the devil is not a being, it's a construct of human limitation. And that book is such an incredible way to access that information about what's preventing us from growing, what's stealing our energy, what's taking away from our focus, what's taking away from our growth and development. It's just so amazing, so amazing. So both these books have been incredibly transformative. So check them out. I'll have all these books in the description below, along with the links to all the videos that I mentioned that I've also created on channeling. So check those out. But without further ado, let's get started with the readings of the two chapters that I'm going to present to you today.
Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, chapter number 14, The Sixth Sense, the Door to the Temple of Wisdom, the 13th Step towards Riches. The 13th principle is known as the Sixth Sense, through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort or demands by the individual. This principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles. The sixth sense is that portion of the subconscious mind which has been referred to as the creative imagination. It has also been referred to as the receiving set through which ideas, plans, and thoughts flash into the mind. The flashes are sometimes called hunches or inspirations. The sixth sense defies description. It cannot be described to a person who has not mastered the other principles of this philosophy, because such a person has no knowledge and no experience with which the sixth sense may be compared. Understanding of the sixth sense comes only by meditation through mind development from within. After you have mastered the principles described in this book, you will be prepared to accept as truth a statement which may otherwise be incredible to you, namely, through the aid of the sixth sense you will be warned of impending dangers in time to avoid them, and notified of opportunities in time to embrace them. There comes to your aid and to your bidding, with the development of the sixth sense, a guardian angel, who will open to you at all times the door to the temple of wisdom. Miracles of the sixth sense. The author is not a believer in, nor an advocate of miracles, for the reason that he has enough knowledge of nature to understand that nature never deviates from her established laws. Some of her laws are so incomprehensible that they may produce what appear to be miracles. The sixth sense comes as near to being a miracle as anything I have ever experienced. This much the author does know, that there is a power, or a first cause, or an intelligence which permeates every atom of matter and embraces every unit of energy perceptible to man, that this infinite intelligence converts acorns into oak trees, causes water to flow downhill in response to the law of gravity, follows night with day and winter with summer, each maintaining its proper place in relationship to the other. This intelligence may, through the principles of this philosophy, be induced to aid in transmuting desires into concrete or material form. The author has this knowledge because he has experimented with it and has experienced it. Step by step, through the preceding chapters, you have been led to this, the last principle. If you have mastered each of the preceding principles, you are now prepared to accept, without being skeptical, the stupendous claims made here. If you have not mastered the other principles, you must do so before you may determine definitely whether or not the claims made in this chapter are fact or fiction. While I was passing through the age of hero worship, I found myself trying to imitate those whom I most admired. Moreover, I discovered that the element of faith with which I endeavored to imitate my idols gave me great capacity to do so quite successfully. Let great men shape your life. I have never entirely divested myself of this habit of hero worship. My experience has taught me that the next best thing to being truly great is to emulate the great by feeling and action as nearly as possible. Long before I had ever written a line of publication or endeavored to deliver a speech in public, I followed the habit of reshaping my own character by trying to imitate the 9 men whose lives and life works had been most impressive to me. These 9 men were Emerson, Paine, Edison, Darwin, Lincoln, Burbank, Napoleon, Ford, and Carnegie. Every night, over a long period of years, I held an imaginary council meeting with this group whom I called my invisible counselors. The procedure was this: just before going to sleep at night, I would shut my eyes and see in my imagination this group of men seated with me around my council table. Here I had not only an opportunity to sit among those whom I considered to be great, but I actually dominated the group by serving as the chairman. I had a very definite purpose in indulging my imagination through these nightly meetings. My purpose was to rebuild my own character so it would represent a composite of the characters of my imaginary counselors. Realizing, as I did early in life, that I had to overcome the handicap of birth in an environment of ignorance and superstition, I deliberately assigned myself the task of voluntary rebirth through the method I have described above. Building character through autosuggestion. I knew, of course, that all men have become what they are because of their dominating thoughts and desires. I knew that every deeply seated desire has the effect of causing one to seek outward expression through which that desire may be transmuted into reality. I knew that self-suggestion is a powerful factor in building character, that it is, in fact, the sole principle through which character is built. With this knowledge of the principles of mind operation, I was fairly well armed with the equipment needed in rebuilding my character. In these imaginary council meetings, I called on my cabinet members for the knowledge I wished each to contribute, addressing myself to each member in audible words as follows: Mr. Emerson, I desire to acquire from you the marvelous understanding of nature which distinguished your life. I ask that you make an impress upon my subconscious mind of whatever qualities you possessed which enabled you to understand and adapt yourself to the laws of nature. Mr. Burbank, I request that you pass on to me the knowledge which enabled you to so harmonize the laws of nature that you cause the cactus to shed its thorns and become an edible food. Give me access to the knowledge which enabled you to make 2 blades of grass grow where but one grew before. Napoleon, I desire to acquire from you by emulation the marvelous ability you possess to inspire men and to arouse them to greater and more determined spirit of action. Also to acquire the spirit of enduring faith which enabled you to turn defeat into victory and to surmount staggering obstacles. Mr. Paine, I desire to acquire from you the freedom of thought and the courage and clarity with which you express convictions which so distinguished you. Mr. Darwin, I wish to acquire from you the marvelous patience and ability to study cause and effect without bias or prejudice, so exemplified by you in the field of natural science. Mr. Lincoln, I desire to build into my own character the keen sense of justice, the untiring spirit of patience, and the sense of humor, the human understanding, and the tolerance with which were your distinguishing characteristics. Mr. Carnegie, I wish to acquire a thorough understanding of the principles of organized effort which you use so effectively in the building of a great industrial enterprise. Mr. Ford, I wish to acquire your spirit of persistence, the determination, poise, and self-confidence which have enabled you to master poverty and to organize, unify, and simplify human effort so I may help others to follow in your footsteps. Mr. Edison, I wish to acquire from you the marvelous spirit of faith with which you have uncovered so many of nature's secrets, the spirit of unremitting toil with which you have so often wrested victory from defeat. The standing power of imagination. My method of addressing the members of the imaginary cabinet would vary according to the traits or of character in which I was, for the moment, most interested in acquiring. I studied the records of their lives with painstaking care. After some months of this nightly procedure, I was astounded by the discovery that these imaginary figures became apparently real. Each of these 9 men developed individual characteristics which surprised me. For example, Lincoln would develop the habit of always being late when walking around in solemn parade. He always wore an expression of seriousness upon his face. Rarely did I see him smile. That was not true of the others. Burbank and Paine often indulged in witty repartee, which seemed, at times, to shock the other members of the cabinet. On one occasion, Burbank was late. When he came, he was excited with enthusiasm, and explained that he had been late because of an experiment he was making, through which he hoped to be able to grow apples on any sort of tree. Paine chided him by reminding him that it was an apple which started all the trouble between man and woman. Darwin chuckled heartily and suggested that Paine should watch out for the little serpents when he went into the forest to gather apples, as they had the habit of growing into big snakes. Emerson observed, "No serpents, no apples," and Napoleon remarked, "No apples, no state." These meetings became so realistic that I became fearful of their consequences and discontinued them for several months. The experiences were so uncanny, I was afraid if I continued them, I would lose sight of the fact that these meetings were purely experiences of my imagination. This is the first time that I have had the courage to mention this. Heretofore, I have remained quiet on this subject because I knew from my own attitude in connection with such matters that I would be misunderstood if I described my unusual experience. I have been emboldened now to reduce my experience to the printed page because I am now less concerned with what they say than I was in the years that have passed. Lest I be misunderstood, I wish here to state most emphatically that I still regard my cabinet meetings as being purely imaginary, but I feel entitled to suggest that while the members of my cabinet may be purely fictional, and the meetings existed only in my own imagination, they have led me into glorious paths of adventure, rekindled an appreciation of true greatness, encouraged creative endeavor, and emboldened the expression of honest thought. Tapping the source of inspiration. Somewhere in the cell structure of the brain is located an organ which receives vibrations of thought, ordinarily called hunches. So far, science has not discovered where this organ of the sixth sense is located, but this is not important. The fact remains that human beings do receive accurate knowledge through sources other than the physical senses. Such knowledge generally is received when the mind is under the influence of extraordinary stimulation. Any emergency which arouses the emotions and causes the heart to beat more rapidly than normal may, and generally does, bring the sixth sense into action. Anyone who has experienced a near accident while driving knows that on such occasions the sixth sense often comes to one's rescue and aids by split seconds in avoiding the accident. These facts are mentioned preliminarily as a statement to which I shall now make, namely, that during my meetings with the invisible counselors I find my mind most receptive to ideas, thoughts, and knowledge which reach me through the sixth sense. On scores of occasions I have faced emergencies, some of them so grave that my life was in jeopardy. I have been miraculously guided past these difficulties through the influence of my invisible counselors. My original purpose in conducting council meetings with imaginary beings was solely that of impressing my own subconscious mind through the principle of autosuggestion with certain characteristics which I desired to acquire. In more recent years, my experimentation has taken on an entirely different trend. I now go to my imaginary counselors with every difficult problem which confronts me and my clients. The results are often astounding, although I do not depend entirely on this form of counsel. A mighty force of slow growth. The sixth sense is not something that one can take off and put on at will. Ability to use this great power comes slowly through application of the other principles outlined in this book. No matter who you are or what you may have been your purpose in reading this book, you can profit by it without understanding the principle described in this chapter. This is especially true if your major purpose is that of accumulation of money or other material things. The chapter on the sixth sense was included because the book is designed for the purpose of presenting a complete philosophy by which individuals may unerringly guide themselves in attaining whatever they ask of life. The starting point of all achievement is desire. The finishing point is that brand of knowledge which leads to understanding of self, understanding of others, understanding of the laws of nature, recognition and understanding of happiness. The sort of understanding comes in its fullness only through familiarity with and use of the principle of the sixth sense. Having read the chapter, you must have observed that while reading it, you were lifted to a high level of mental stimulation. Splendid. Come back to this again a month from now, read it once more, and observe that your mind will soar to a still higher level of stimulation. Repeat this experience from time to time, giving no concern as to how much or how little you learn at the time, and eventually you will find yourself in possession of a power that will enable you to throw off discouragement, master fear, overcome procrastination, and draw freely upon your imagination. Then you will have felt the touch of that unknown something which has been the moving spirit of every truly great thinker, leader, artist, musician, writer, statesman. Then you will be in possession to transmute your desires into their physical or financial counterpart as easily as you may lie down and quit at the first sign of opposition. Copywriting Secrets by Jim Edwards. Secret number 27, The Magic Desk. The very first thing you must come to realize is that you must become a student of markets, no products, not techniques, not copywriting, not how to buy space or whatever. Now, of course, all these things are important and you must learn about them, but the first and the most important thing you must learn is what people want to buy. Gary Halbert. It's a challenge we all face. How do you get out of your head and into the mind of your prospects? When you're writing copy or creating content, it's always easier to see how other people should be doing it rather than it is for you to look at what you're doing in your businesses or with your copy. In other words, it's much easier for you to spot the problems or the successes in other people's copy or in their content than it is to detect the issues or the angles in your own. The reason is that you're too close to it. You can't get out of your head. You can't see the forest for the trees. Let's walk through a cool exercise that helps you to get out of your head and into the mind of your prospects. This activity works best after you've researched your target market. You don't just yank this out of thin air. You have to know your target avatar that we covered in depth in secret number 8. Do this exercise after you fully define your customer avatar. Here's how to do the magic desk exercise, which is guided visualization. Read through it once to understand what to do. This technique helps you get inside the mind of your prospects so you know what they're thinking and, more importantly, how to give them exactly what they want in the way they want it and explain it all in terms they can understand. As you do this, all I ask is that you have an open mind. It is going to seem a little strange, especially if you've never done a visualization exercise or practiced creative visualization or meditation. This technique produces results because it allows you to find out what your prospect, your boss, your spouse, your customer, or your readers want. Why is this ability critically important? Every person in this world has their mind tuned into one radio station, and one radio station only. It is called the letters, its call letters are WIIFM, which stands for What's in It for Me. Your ability to tune into other people's radio stations has a significant impact on your success or failure in life. No matter where you are in life, no matter how much money you make, no matter how happy or sad you are, no matter your goals, your hopes, your dreams, or your desires, no matter where you want more money, no matter whether you want more money, more love, more peace, more happiness, or more satisfaction, you must be able to meet the needs of other people in the way they want so you can get what you want. Satisfying other people's wants, emotional, financial, spiritual, or any other wants, the way they want them satisfied is how you get what you want. It's not the other way around. The bottom line is, to get what you want, you first have to know what other people want and give it to them or sell it to them, as the case may be. If you're going to change the economic, social, or other circumstances of your life, other people play a big part in helping you achieve that. The number one objective of doing this exercise is to raise your level of empathy with your customers or your prospects and tune into their WIIFM, their What's in It for Me radio station. The word empathy gets misused most of the time you see or hear it. Webster's defines empathy as a vicarious experience of the feelings, thoughts, or attitudes of another. Some people call it being in tune with another person or in sync. Empathy means you feel and think about something the same way they feel and think. By learning how to get into this empathetic state quickly, you massively improve your ability to communicate with other people. Maybe you've noticed this in yourself. I know I have. When I'm around somebody that I have a high level of empathy for, I start talking like them, taking on their mannerisms, and in some cases, taking on their accent, speech patterns, and thought patterns. I noticed this about myself a long time ago when I was in college at a fraternity house. I saw myself doing it, but never understood why. I certainly didn't understand the power of using it to motivate others until much later. Also, I have a background in the theater. Being able to empathize with the person or the character you're portraying is a big part of method acting. That's what we want. We want to play the role of a customer so well that we end up becoming the customer. Then the customer will tell us exactly what they want with the words, thoughts, and fears they have. We can use this information to sell them. This technique is powerful. Be careful not to abuse it. You can and should learn to fully empathize with the customer, the prospect, or anyone else you want to motivate in some way. If you can get inside their minds, then you can feel their fear and know what you have to offer them so they feel more secure. If you can get inside their mind and feel their pain, then you'll know the relief they want. If you can get inside their mind and feel their problems, then you can offer solutions that speak directly to their brain. One of the things many copywriters miss out on is the fact that if you can identify a person's emotional greed, which they are afraid to admit, then you can offer them more of what they want. This exercise will help you not only get in touch with what they want, but also to get in touch with their fears, their pain, their problems, and their innermost desires, so you can help them get what they want. The ability to do that will skyrocket your ability to communicate with these people and motivate them to take the actions you want. That's the background of this technique. What makes this technique even more effective is to do it after you've done a lot of research about your prospects and customers. You've looked at the websites they go to, you've read the magazines they read, you've watched the TV shows they watch, you've seen the keywords they use when they search the internet, you've done the intellectual research about your prospects, and you've got these ideas running around in your head, but you still haven't connected with them on a gut level. The perfect time to do this exercise is after you've done that type of research. The more data you have about your target audience, the more useful this technique will be. Like anything, the more you practice it, the better you will get. Before we get started, make sure that your phone is off the hook or the ringer is turned off. Make sure you have your cell phone on Do Not Disturb. Close your door. Make sure you're not going to be interrupted. Also, make sure you have an open and relaxed mind. Have a pen and a paper and an audio recorder handy. I prefer recorders, so I use my cell phone with a voice memo going while I'm practicing this. There will be things coming out of your stream of consciousness that you want to record without interrupting yourself to turn the recorder on and off. The reason I prefer having a recorder is that once you enter the mind of your prospect, you'll be amazed at the stuff that comes out of you as you start revealing what that person wants. You want to be able to capture all of it, because when you start rattling it off, it's going to come out of your subconscious quickly and you don't want to miss it. Write down specific questions to ask yourself ahead of time. It sounds weird, but it's just like an interview. You don't want to have to think about the questions you want to ask after you've entered the mind of your prospect. If you want to know what they're afraid of, excited about, what their problems are with something, then you want to have those questions written out ahead of time so they can serve as a guide. It also helps if you write down your intention for the interview. For example, my intention for conducting this session is to get in touch with my prospect's major problems and fears when it comes to writing their book. Sit in a quiet place and close your eyes. Have the pen and paper or the recorder handy. Your specific questions are written out and readily available. Make sure you have enough space to write or your phone battery is charged. Then I like to count backwards from 10 slowly. Now, with your eyes closed and your mind relaxed, feeling completely at ease and safe, visualize yourself sitting in a big, comfy chair behind a huge, ornate desk made out of teak or some other tropical, exotic wood. Across the room from you is a door. The door opens and in walks somebody who turns out to be your ideal prospect. They look concerned. They have a problem that they know you can solve. So they've come to consult with you because they know you understand their wants, needs, desires, and challenges. They take a seat across from you at the desk. In their angst, they speak rapidly. Though they're animated, you remain very calm and still. As they're telling you about their problems, the stuff they want to solve, and the desires of their heart, suddenly their voice starts to fade. You realize you're getting up out of your chair, gliding around the desk, and you're still perfectly calm. Everything's cool. You get behind the person while they're still talking. As you move closer to them, you hear their voice in your ears and look out through their eyes. It's then you realize you stepped inside the mind of your prospect. You listen to what they say and you see yourself across the desk. You notice that you physically feel their fears, you feel their problems and their desires. It's this big jumbled mess in the pit of your stomach. Then from the other side of the desk where you still sit, you ask them the questions on the paper. Because you've connected so entirely with the mind of your prospect, the answers flow out of you. You capture everything into your recorder or write it on the paper. Some of the questions that lead to the kind of insight you're looking for are questions like, what terrifies you? What does that mean if that happens? If you weren't so worried about anyone judging you, how would you describe that fear in words anyone could understand? What is your deepest desire for your life right now? What objectives do you have for your business, or in building a subscriber list, or in setting up your next funnel, or in trying to reach financial freedom? If I could provide that for you, what would you have to see, or what would I have to say to motivate you to have a burning desire for what I have to sell? What words would you use to describe what I'm selling or what I have to offer, and how could I express that better in a way that would resonate with you? How badly do you want what I'm selling? How could I make you want what I'm selling more? What objections do you have to what I'm selling, and what can I show you or tell you to overcome those objectives? What would stop you from getting the results that I'm promising you can get? What could I do to sweeten the pot of my offer, product, service, so you feel comfortable and eager to take advantage of it before I change my mind? As you look at my competitors, what have you seen that you like, that gets you excited, that made you want to buy from them right now? What do I need to show you or prove to you that would turn you from a prospect into a customer who does business for me or with me? What do you think is a fair price for what I have to sell? What else can I tell you? What else can you tell me that will make what I have to offer even more appealing to you? What other problems or concerns do you have that I may not be aware of or don't realize are important to you? once you've finished with the questions, it's time to draw the interview to a close. However, don't just open your eyes because that'll jar your mind. You want to slowly pull back from your prospect and pull yourself out of the back of them. You find yourself floating peacefully and slowly back around the desk and into yourself. Then you both sit there quietly, just looking at each other, knowing you've been sincere, open, and complete in your communication with each other. Your prospect's whole demeanor has changed since they entered the room. They're calm, cheerful, and feel better because they know you've made a real effort to understand their problems, wants, and desires. Then, with a big smile on your face and theirs, they get up, walk out of the room, and shut the door. With your eyes still shut, you start coming back feeling refreshed and at peace. You come back up 10, 9, 8, feeling more awake, 7, 6, 5, feeling refreshed, 4, 3, 2, 1. Open your eyes. Once you complete this exercise, you have some information and insight you can use. I've had times of revelations like, oh my gosh, I've been looking at this completely the wrong way. Or I've had situations where I had one tiny inflection, one word, one bit of pivot in the English that I was using to explain something that made a huge difference. But I've never done this exercise and not come away with some valuable insight to help me better understand and be more empathetic towards the people I'm trying to sell. You can use this to understand how to meet their needs better. You can use this to help create sales copy that speaks directly to their wants and desires. You can modify your behavior when it comes to dealing with them in virtually any situation, especially on social media where people can tend to piss you off. It's nice to be able to draw on some level of empathy, which creates patience. You can create a sales talk, a webinar, a phone script, or any other type of interaction that's more in sync with what's going on in their head. Plus, you can massively increase your understanding of what the other person wants and sell it to them. If you do this, the insights you get as your practice are worth so much money that to you because you're able to get inside their mind, use the words they use, and give yourself the information to motivate them. The big thing to remember is not to think, man, this is weird, or this is kind of stupid, or this is kind of creepy. This technique is proven. Just use it. Don't get hung up on it. Also remember that the connection you can make with your customers all starts in your mind. For those of us who sell through the internet, this is going to sound woo-woo, but if you think about it, you're transmitting thoughts from your mind through your screen and keyboard through the internet to their monitor and their keyboard. Those thoughts are what get people to buy, sign up, or take action. It's all about having that connection, which starts in your mind. It's your mind. You can play whatever games you want. If you feel like this exercise is stodgy or weird, then it's stodgy and weird, and it won't work for you. But if you're open, try to emphasize and visualize through the eyes of your customer. You can use this exercise to craft headlines, to figure out bullets, to craft out a story, to write a sales letter, or whatever you're trying to do to suck people in and get them to take the action you desire. I use it all the time. Like the old saying says, never judge a man until you walk a mile in his shoes. Now you can do more than walk a mile in his shoes. You can enter his mind and know what he's thinking. Summary. Better copy comes from higher levels of empathy with your customers and prospects. Using a guided meditation like this helps you synthesize lots of information and data through the eyes of your prospects. If you think it's weird, it won't work. If you do it with an open mind, your results could be truly life-altering.
Now, this concludes the video, you guys. I hope you have enjoyed both these chapters from both these books. And I hope you can kind of see how these instructions correlate to what channeling is in different ways. Now, again, if you want to check out my video about what channeling is, who the channelers are, there's a link in the description below. I'm also going to try to add it to the end screen here. And then another video that you might want to check out is how to do channeling on your own, how to try it out. 2 tactics you can try from home, no experience needed, nothing else needed besides a journal or a piece of paper and a voice recorder or your phone. either one of actually these two or both. So on this note, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video has served you well. I hope it has been useful to you and interesting to you. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. Again, if you have other examples of literature that talks about channeling, whether it calls it that or it doesn't, let me know. I'm like super curious. I love to read, or rather listen to books, but also to read when I have time. If you have questions, let me know. I answer to all the comments, even if they're bots sometimes, because sometimes I just can't tell. So let me know. I'll be happy to chat with you. If you want to support my channel, the best way you can do that is by liking this video. If you think someone else among your friends or family or whoever would find it useful or interesting, send it to them. If you want to share it on social media, feel free to do that also. And if you like this type of content and you don't want to miss the next videos that I'll be making on different subjects related to empaths, sensitives, channeling, things like that, psychic abilities, how to develop those, etc., then I highly recommend that you subscribe. And I also highly, highly recommend that you hit that bell button, because I don't have a schedule, and I'm not gonna have a schedule anytime soon. Sometimes I'll upload like 4 or 5 videos at a time. Sometimes it's just like a video out of nowhere. So I am trying to film a lot more content though. So just make sure you're subscribed. Just make sure that you're getting the notifications so you don't miss something, especially my moonly channelings when I channel on full moon and new moon, so that you get the messages channeled for empaths, for all of us empaths, directly at the time that it's best suited for. So on this note, thank you so much for watching. I love you all so very much. I hope you can feel my love. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.